Hi guys, this is GSMDome.com and I'm here with the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip7 for a full review. We're dealing here with the latest and best handset from Samsung when it comes to a foldable phone with a flip aspect. This time they've increased the diagonal size of the external screen. It's a 4.1 incher, while the internal screen has also grown to 6.9 inches. There have been some improvements as far as the hardware is concerned. We have a new processor, Exynos 2500, and aside from that, it's pretty much the same cameras cut at the front here and also in this external screen here. We have the blue version of the phone and the price should be around 1,200 euros, at least in our part of Europe. We have a now bar on the screen here and a variety of other things, especially related to AI. You can extract pets from a photograph. You can also do Gemini Live on the external screen with expanded functionality, including the Gemini Live, which can be interacted with in more ways than one. Still getting accustomed to this external screen, which by the way can even run Netflix, and I'm going to take you through a full review of the handset. So let's go with a review of the Galaxy Z Flip7. So first things first, I'm also going to do a comparison with the Z Flip6. This is what the Z Flip6 is like, and this is what the Z Flip7 is like. It's a bit wider, this one here, the new one. It's about 4 millimeters wider than the predecessor. The diagonal has increased from 6.7 inches to 6.9 inches, while obviously the external screen has grown quite a bit. If you look at it here, it's a 3.4 incher. If you look at it here, it's a 4.1 incher, but it's not only that, the bezels are also much narrower at 1.25 millimeters. Perhaps the narrowest bezels on the market for an external screen. Other modifications, well, the new phone is definitely lighter and slimmer than the predecessor. So what we have here is a 13.7 millimeter thick phone, while the predecessor was 14.9 millimeters. You can definitely tell that the new one is slimmer. When you open it up, there's also a difference. The new one measures 6.5 millimeters in thickness, while the previous one measures 6.9 millimeters in thickness. So yes, it's also slimmer. It keeps the same IP48 certification, which means it can take dust and water, can be sunk up to 30 minutes for 1.5 meter of, I would say, depth. And the hinge is now a bit more discreet. It's called the Armor FlexHinge here, and it also uses an Armor aluminum frame and weighs 188 grams, which is just 1 gram less than the Z Flip 6. Aside from that, we have Gorilla Glass Victus 2 protection externally, while the internal screen remains with plastic protection. And by the way, the crease is now much better hidden. You cannot even see it anymore compared to what we had before. The thing is that the phone is pretty comfortable, although it's quite wide. That's something which may make it a bit harder to put in a pocket of some skinny jeans. And the fact that it's so slim, when you open it up, means you're going to have a hard time pressing these very skinny buttons, particularly the power one, which is too in-depth compared to the, well, predecessor. Aside from that, you can find it in, aside from blue, black, mint green, and there should also be a coral red version, which I particularly love. Okay, so let's put the Flip 6 at the side for a little bit and focus on the new one. I've talked about the design. I said it's pretty well built, pretty slim, has some narrow bezels. Time to talk about the screen. So let me start off with the internal screen. This internal panel is quite impressive. It's a 6.9 incher up from the 6.7 incher of the predecessor. Still just a bit smaller than the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra, which has a 7 incher. Now, I should probably mention that we're dealing here with an AMOLED panel. This AMOLED panel should have a pretty high resolution, something like a Full HD Plus and 120 Hz refresh rate, which is still pretty solid, nothing to complain about. Not many novelties regarding the protection, still plastic protection for the screen, and the selfie camera is cut in the screen. Now, the external screen is definitely the novelty here. Now you're getting some new stuff here, and I'm talking about, for example, the fact that this panel here comes with a 4.1 inch diagonal. It's a Super AMOLED at 120 Hz. The resolution is atypical, 1048 over 948 pixels. It delivers 2600 nits of brightness. You can run any app on this screen, even third-party ones, and that's pretty amazing. Of course, I can also show you a video on the main AMOLED screen, this one here. This is the immersiveness. The bezels are still pretty thick compared to other phones on the market, but compared to other flip phones, they're quite okay. Now, it's a bright panel, this one, handle contrast like a champ in the full summer sunlight, wide view angles and a wide color palette, nothing to complain about color-wise. As usual, the AMOLEDs are top-notch. We also did a brightness measurement and we came out very impressed. This is the internal screen with 1572 lux units, which is pretty amazing. It's actually on the 9th spot from the 600 phones we've tested. It beats even the Galaxy Z Fold7. It also surpasses many other phones like the Z Fold6. It's double the amount of the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra, so what more can you want? Even the secondary screen, the external one, is impressive. 1209 lux, the fourth brightest out there, beating Motorola Razr 40 Ultra and a slew of other phones, including the Razr 60 Ultra. You can see here which other models we surpassed, the Nubias, the Razrs, and so forth. Quite impressive. Okay, that's everything we have to say about the screens. I'm actually pretty blown away by this secondary screen and the brightness we can achieve here. And of course, aside from having full screen apps, you can also have your widgets here. You should also be able to pinch it like this and customize your windows if you want to. We also have this little part here with the now bar and several other features. It's a smart integration of this pill here, letting us know what's happening on the phone. As far as the benchmarks are concerned, now we go inside the phone and learn more about it. So if you go to the settings, you should find out more here. So this is the Galaxy Z Flip7, which comes with a, let's actually download the IDA app because that's a more straightforward way. Okay, so it's the Exynos 2500. Should have been ready for versions of the S25, wasn't ready in time. It's a 3nm processor. It's the premier here. This CPU hasn't been used. It's the follow-up to the Exynos 2400 from the S24 series, and a rebranded version of it may make the Pixel 10 series. The predecessor, Z Flip6, had the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, so it's a swap to a deca-core processor. We also have 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage. There's also a version with 512, sold at the same price of as the 256 because, you know, special offer at the pre-order. By the way, Motorola Razr 60 Ultra has 16 gigs of RAM. As far as the benchmarks are concerned, we have those here. So we go to the benchmarks, we go to 2 to 10. It's a pretty good score, but not a record breaker. It's 1.6 million points. It's in the realm of the S24 FE and iPhone 16 Pro Max, but a bit far from the current records, which even go towards 3 million. For example, Motorola Razr 60 Ultra goes over 2 million. So yeah, there's that. The predecessor Z Flip6 was at 1.1 million points. In Geekbench 6, in the multi-core subtest, we're above the iPhone 15 Pro and S24 Plus, so we're gravitating between the S24 series and S25 series. These are the GPU tests. We're above the level of the S24 Ultra, which is not a bad company to be in. We also have this Wireless Unlimited here, above the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus, once again, not bad company, and once again, between the S24 and the S25 series. People are definitely curious how we're doing with the CPU throttling test. Not very good. We're losing 41% performance after 15 minutes of this benchmark, so yeah, there's performance loss, but maybe not as bad as the one of the Snapdragon 8 Elite models out there. As you can see, the Z Fold7 did worse. Now, when it comes to the temperature, they also got a bit high, so in benchmarks, we achieved 39.8 degrees Celsius, which is close to hot, and in games, 39.6. Usually we see much less here, as you can see, 482nd spot from the 600 phones we've tested, so definitely a bit on the warmer side when it comes to gaming and intense activities. Now, it's time to discuss another upgrade, which is the battery. So, in spite of what it says here, we have a 4300 mAh unit. The Flip 6 had a 4000 mAh unit, but the charging stays the same. It's 25 watt via wire, 15 watts wireless, so expected a bit more here, if I'm being honest. Now, we're going to the results, and let's see how it did. First of all, video playback, a pretty impressive 29 hours and 2 minutes. I mean, it's on the 24th spot in our ranking here. It goes above something like the S24, Realme GT6, iPhone 16 Pro Max. Once again, not bad company. It's just below the OnePlus 13, but the Razr 60 Ultra is a bit higher with 30 hours and 31 minutes. By the way, we surpassed the Flip 6 by quite a margin. That one offered 21 hours and 30 minutes in the video playback. Sadly, the continuous usage test wouldn't work. I would say that we're about 2, maybe 3 hours above the Flip 6 after some day of usage. As far as the charging is concerned, it's quite a bit slow. It's required 1 hour and 56 minutes for a full charge. It may have been my fault. I kept the phone folded when charging. Apparently you have to keep it open to charge up the battery faster, otherwise the battery is split in two and takes longer. Now, after 30 minutes of charge, I was at 40%. Once again, keep your phone unfolded for faster charger. Didn't know that, now I know. On the acoustic side of things, we have one speaker at the bottom, and the other one is not at the top, instead is the earpiece here, and we're going to play a tune, which is our typical sound test right here. These are AKG tuned speakers, by the way. You're seeing some custom options as well at the same time. Equalizer options as well. Boost dialogue, loudness normalization, and upscale. Okay, the voice is pretty clear, the bass is, I would say, sufficient, but the volume definitely needs to be higher. I was not very impressed by this actually. Things I listen to on these speakers are the French metal band Gojira, for example. It's coming to our part of Europe soon, this month, at a festival called Rockstad. And aside from that, I listen to Sarah McLachlan with Delirium, Silence, an old trance song, and the high notes were quite fine, but not groundbreaking. Now, as far as tests are concerned, we have them here. So we have the volume power, which is 84.6 decibels for the top speaker and 84.5 decibels with the bottom speaker with an acoustic sample. These are, I would say, normal values. I like that the stereophony is real. The two speakers are balanced, so that's a plus. With the bottom value, we surpassed Galaxy Z Flip7, but we're quite a bit below Motorola Razr 60 Ultra, which went up to 85.8 decibels. And this will be the Huawei P50 Pocket. In the multimedia subtest, 94.5 decibels, it's fine, it's once again in the usual margin, around the Xiaomi 12T Pro, but quite a bit below the gaming phones of today. We're the perfect equal of the Huawei P50 Pocket, but below the Motorola Razr 60 Ultra again. It had 100 decibels, that one. At least we beat the predecessor by 0.4 decibels. And now we're off to the camera. Of course, I'm going to start with the selfie shooter. It's a 10 megapixel one, cut in the screen, exactly like the predecessor. Also like the predecessor, we have two cameras here. We have a main 50 megapixel camera with OIX and 2x optical zoom. Not exactly optical zoom, but it's using some algorithm tricks to deliver photos as if they were optical zoom. And once again, so 50 megapixel main camera, and the other one is the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, sadly without autofocus and also without macro, and the specs can definitely be confirmed here. So yeah, there's that. Okay, that's it camera wise, the same setup as the predecessor. Now the camera interface offers us familiar modes. If you've seen a review or a presentation or anything about the S25 series, they're the same. Panorama, dual rec, food, portrait video, pro video, hyperlapse pro, slow motion single take. You can shoot video up to 4K 60. There is a night mode here. There's also a special super steady mode. There's also a night mode once again. The photo includes 2x zoom and a bunch of filters. Of course, you can also take photos in 50 megapixel full resolution. There's also a portrait mode with some extras. And once again, you can use the external cover screen to take selfies. You can use it as a preview maybe, and you can even go from it like this to trigger the camera, and so you won't be required to actually rely on the selfie shooter. So double press the power button, you're in the camera now. These are some of the options, the resolution, some filters and things like that. Quite a few of them are available here. Okay, that's pretty much it. Of course, there are some novelties like the auto zoom feature that Samsung is proposing, and other special features which let you create videos, like there's a 10-bit HDR capture, for example, with more colors than the predecessor. But now let's get straight to the samples. Okay, so let's talk about the camera samples. We have quite a few of them. As you can see here, it's over 256 shots and they're quite impressive. So first of all, the colors. You would expect a phone which has the same setup as the predecessor to not excel when it comes to colors, especially on some very hot days like we had over the past days. And believe it or not, it's actually cool. The colors are pretty well calibrated, and the portraits are also spot on, blurring the background in excellent fashion. Now, I should also probably show you some other colors here. We typically rely on a fence, which we photograph, and I would say the color accuracy is pretty close to a Pixel or OnePlus level, which is a pretty high compliment for a foldable phone of the flip variety. Another thing I noticed is that there's not a major difference between the shots taken with the main camera or the shots taken with the ultra wide camera. The colors remain pretty much the same. The only difference is that at the edges there will be some deformation as the subjects on the ultra wide, as it usually happens, and lesser details on account of the low resolution. Of course, if you want zoom, you're only limited here to 2x, but you can go further than that if you want to. So let's maybe find a shot of this variety. Okay, so there is this block here of buildings. This is 2x zoom, then we go further to 3x and 5x, but once again, things are less noisy at around 3x. Other than that, if you go past that, you will not be that impressed. Several more shots here of a fountain in the middle of a lake, a regular shot, ultra wide shot. The colors don't change that much, which is a compliment for the ultra wide camera. Once again, even more zoom at up to 10x, and here you can see that there's noise and we're starting to lose details. I was actually very happy with the selfies. These are the selfies taken by my colleague, and I would say they're excellent. They're as good as you'd find on any top level phone. iPhone 16 Pro Max comes to mind, S25 Ultra. Perfect focus, a lot of detail. Just look at the hair and the texture of the skin. I'm actually pretty blown away by what the camera can achieve here, the selfie camera. I find it superior to the one of the, I would say, Motorola Razr 60 Ultra. However, it's important to notice that some of the shots are taken with the main camera using the external screen. Some of the shots are taken with the camera in the screen. I would say these are taken with the camera in the screen because there's not as much detail in the skin. Here you definitely notice more details, and that's the subject of the main camera. These are taken, they're a bit more washed out. They're taken with the camera cut in the screen for sure. But at the end of the day, even if this was a back camera, you still have the fallback, the main camera. Okay, now focusing on very close subjects, things are spot on, so excellent focus. Even though we don't have macro for the ultra wide camera, these flowers look actually great. However, I noticed that at some point it was very hard to focus properly and blur the subject behind this light here. So all in all, I would say I'm pretty happy with the results, minus the zoom because you don't have a telephoto camera, but that was to be expected. Also, on the sides of the ultra wide shots, details will be lacking. When it comes to the low light captures, we have quite a few of those as well, this time in the central part of Bucharest. So we had it all, a lot of people, a lot of lights, and a lot of beautiful buildings. Sometimes the night mode will be used even at standard shots, and I have to say that the ultra wide capture is not bad at the end of the day. However, if it's very dark around you, you'll be a bit disappointed by the size of the ultra wide shot. Pretty decent zoom, by the way, even at 5x. I was actually impressed by that. The colors are also fine, but as you can see, if you start to zoom in on the ultra wide shots, there's a lot of noise even at the center of the image. So the ultra wide camera doesn't capture as much light as the main camera. The street light sources are a bit big for my taste, particularly on the ultra wide, and in darker areas, once again, not many details. The colors are actually what impressed me the most, as did the selfies, particularly those taken with the main camera, relying on the secondary screen as an extra. Several more shots here. Now, the camera doesn't have a huge problem with street lights, only it creates these small suns around some of the light sources. At least it keeps the same trend for all light sources, it doesn't discriminate, and I don't see major ghosting for moving subjects, particularly people walking around and cars, like it happens here. So all in all, I would say it's pretty much the same as we got on the Z Flip 6. I don't feel a huge jump. The main jump is probably in the video department. And speaking of which, time to go to the videos. So we have here the menu, you have here the videos, quite a few of them, and this is most likely, yes, this is the focus test, alternating between the foreground and the background. A pretty accurate focus, not the fastest in the world, but pretty accurate. And then we have the selfie video 1, which is taken with the inner camera.
Mare selfie 4K 60 fps.
4K 60. Not bad, but the other one is better, definitely using the external camera for selfie. And blurring the background in excellent fashion with perfect stabilization. These are the colors that the camera achieves. Less overexposed than I would have expected on a very sunny day. And once again, pretty good stabilization. I feel it actually has improved from the predecessor, even though that one was spot on. Here there's a slight overexposure. As you can see, this area is white, lit by the sun, and the vegetation is too bright. We also have this panning here, this zoom, excuse me, decent at up to 2-3x. Aside from that, there will be plenty of noise. Okay, so definitely a lot of scenarios here, including this one where we climb stairs. Things to remember. So we have perfect 4K 60 frames per second details, a lot of quality in stabilization, pretty accurate focus but not very fast, nice colors. However, beware of the overexposure which may appear when the sun is very powerful. Now we have the low light captures, which go something like this. Decent level of zoom, but you can definitely see the noise appear very fast. Moving subjects here and a bit too bright halos here and there. There are some limitations compared to the S25 and S24 series, I would say. Those ones handle the light better. There's definitely noise in this part of the image. So yes, there are some imperfections. Some lights are a bit too big. I don't feel there's a huge jump compared to the Z Flip6 and Z Flip5. Perhaps only in the quantity of light captured. Yet again, people walking and cars, some light sources are overblown, which I also saw on the Flip5 and Flip6. The camera also has some drawbacks in darker places, and it can create some noise here and there if there's not enough light. It is light hungry and definitely achieves some pretty good colors, but also increases the light sizes and doesn't handle darker areas very good. But the selfies are still pretty decent even at night, selfie videos. So all in all, a very good camera if you're relying on the external camera for selfies, good close-ups, nice colors and excellent stabilization. Now let's talk about connectivity. So on the connectivity side of things, we have plenty of stuff to enjoy. There is a 5G, there is Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4, nano SIM and multiple eSIMs, GPS, Galileo, GLONASS, BDS, QZSS, NFC for contactless payments, USB-C 3.2 port at the bottom. There's ultra wideband if you want to connect a smart tag, and of course a lot of connectivity settings. Quick share, music share, link to Windows, multi-control, so you can actually share a mouse cursor on multiple devices. Samsung DeX can simulate an environment, connect a mouse, trackpad and display. There's also Smart View here, you can share your phone on a TV. Smart things to control objects around the house like a washing machine and a vacuum cleaner and so forth. The calls were pretty loud and clear, and we also did a speed test with some pretty amazing results. Finally, we got past 1 gig per second in 5G. It's actually 1016 mega per second in download and up to 142 mega per second in upload. This is 5G connectivity, and on Wi-Fi 888 over 727 mega per second, I would say we're doing quite fine. And finally, we have reached the OS segment, OS applications and of course AI. The idea of AI is taken further by this phone. It's the same AI as the predecessor and the S25 Ultra, but with extras. Starting with the fact that this is among the very first phones to run Android 16. Yes, Android 16, not 15. With One UI 8.0 on top. So you're getting 7 years of Android updates, by the way, and the fingerprint scanner is embedded in the power button, and it's quite fast and accurate. Now, One UI 8.0 is a refined version of 7.0. There are some modifications here and there for the quick panel, for example, some different shades and some different sizes of the sliders. So each section of quick settings has a discrete contour, which is more elegant and better organized. It's a minor change, but Yeah, there's also something called back swipe preview. So when you do a back gesture inside an app or something like that, supposing you don't have the back button here, the gesture would be changed. The windows is pulled a bit to the right, leaving the previous window in sight. That's a change for more intuitive navigation. But I like to rely on buttons, especially because you have more space on a 6.9-inch screen. Okay, so multitasking happens like this with a card system, and One UI 8.0 also brings an improved version of the Quick Share feature. So courtesy of Quick Share, the interface has been reorganized with 2 separate tabs, Send and Receive, which simplifies the sending process. There's also call captions and real-time text as novelties, and we also have custom wallpapers. You can see here the wallpapers and style, color palette. You even have suggested images from the gallery. The AI thinks these are the best you can use. You can create ones with AI, and there's an improved way here to integrate the clock on the lock screen so that it won't bother you, especially with the brand new screens. So if we look it up here, screen lock, edit lock screen, you can do this. Once again, there are multiple sizes and fonts, colors and styles for the clock compared to the Z Flip 6. Okay, so another novelty introduced on the S25 series, there's something called the Now bar and the Now brief. You can see part of it here. It says cloudy afternoon, and this is basically a summary of your day. It includes the weather, calendar, important dates for you, actions to do, recommendations. It could even include something like a favorite video or even the place you park your car. That's one of the extras, the welcome extras of this feature. This is the Now brief. You can also expand it, and you have more Galaxy AI features here, including Now brief. The content we include is here. It's health and wellness, travel, events, tasks, digital well-being. There are also moments, traffic updates, parking spot reminders, which are new, news, smart home stuff, YouTube things, and even wearable battery alerts. So if your watch has a dying battery, you'll be let know by this app. So it's very useful for a recap throughout the day, at nighttime, at the start of the day, at the middle of the day, and with YouTube recommendations. And now we can definitely talk about the external screen, starting with some settings for it. So let's find here. So we have display, we have extra brightness, motion smoothness, easy mode, touch sensitivity, screensaver. Let's actually find the external screen features. Cover screen. Okay, so you can definitely have these cute panels here. You can change its styling. You can change the widgets from here. You have your Now brief, applications, battery calculator, contacts, multi-star reminder, and so forth. You have the timeout here, which I like to be bigger. The notifications, hide content while lock. And there was another interesting feature here. You can use the navigation. You can use multi-window for applications. You have a pop-up view. You have apps which are allowed here. Basically, all of them, any third-party apps should be allowed on the external screen. But the most important of all is probably Gemini. So what would be a good outfit to wear at a wedding?
A good wedding outfit depends on the dress code. Black tie, floor length.
And of course, you can also share the screen with Gemini.
All right, let's start chatting whenever you're ready.
Okay, so tell me the weather for New York for the following 7 days.
Here's the forecast for New York.
Okay, so it's showing me the forecast for New York. I can do multiple things. So I can go here, I can access the camera, and I can actually show it things. So I just got a postcard and I would like to show it. What is this?
That's a cool postcard. It looks like it's showing the construction of a tall building. Is there anything specific you'd like to know about it?
What building is it?
That's the Empire State Building under construction.
Okay,
It
so
looks like it's from pretty...
it identified it properly, which is pretty cool. And you can also share the screen with it and demand a lot of other commands. Once again, this screen shows full screen versions of your applications, no matter which app it is. You got your weather here, you got your calendar here. And once again, you can even have your Instagram, you can have your photo application, you can have your YouTube, you can have your Netflix, you can have your maps. Once again, in full version. However, the fitting on the screen may be a bit weird around the camera area, as you can see me struggling right now. So yeah, they're definitely work in progress, some of the apps here, because of the cutouts of the punch holes. Okay, so Gemini Live, definitely useful, and of course other features can be included here. So if I'm on this website here and I see this handset, I keep pressed here, I can circle it, recognize it, use follow-up questions, and it even does a deeper dive about the product compared to the previous versions of it. I can also use it to translate what's on the screen or recognize the song. In the web browser, I have this feature here called Summarize. You can also translate. You can read highlights aloud, which is pretty useful. Of course, there's a flex mode, so I can do this and have the options on one part of the screen and the camera finder, viewfinder on the other part of the screen. I can do the same here if I'm editing a photo. I can have the editing options here or just the touchpad. And these are the edits I can do, which are simpler. You can also use all sorts of filters, balance, light, contrast, draw stickers, and more. And this is just one example. You can also do this. You can also see the comments in YouTube while you're watching the video. This is the so-called flex mode, which is quite useful. Of course, you can put the phone like this on a wall if you're traveling and have it take your picture by simply doing this with your hand or saying cheese. There are multiple things you can do. When it comes to Galaxy AI, there's a novelty here. If you have a photo of your pet, you can extract the pet and apply cute features to it. So just go to Portrait Studio, choose the pet, 3D cartoon, generate it, and it will be extracted from the shot. It will have cool effects applied to it. And by the way, if you take photos of people, you have an automatic way, this is so funny, an automatic way of identifying who to remove. Okay, so let's go to the photos of people, passers-by. Okay, so here, for example, this is the new option. It identifies the people who need to go here. If you place the eraser, they're gone. So it identifies photo bombers. Aside from that, you can also have videos where you can identify with the sound eraser the sounds to remove. This is audio eraser. We saw it on the S25 series, and now it's smarter. It can analyze the audio, remove the voices or the noise or the music, and it's also applied in the video recording application and more apps, which is pretty cool. Video player, voice recorder, Samsung Notes, and transcriptions. By the way, if you're recording something with this application called voice recorder, it will be turned into text in a jiffy, which is useful for reporters, journalists, and more. Okay guys, so I'm here with a review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip7 and I have a lot to tell you. Some of the things I'm about to tell you may already know because some of these features have been present on the predecessor or on the S25 series. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, it can transcribe it right now. You can do a summary. And that's that. By the way, Google has a partnership with Samsung, so buyers of the Flip 7 will get 6 months of access to Gemini AI Pro. Here you can see the text I just spoke. And of course, using this I can transcribe, summarize, and translate. And speaking of which, if you go to the Notes application, you have the AI Smarts features here. You can organize, summarize, translate, change the tone of what you're saying, and even start drawing things. You can also add a PDF, voice recording, image, camera, scan, and more. And you can even start drawing on photos and turning them into, I don't know, something crazy with AI. So if I press this one here, I can either do generative edit, sketch to image, portrait studio. So if I want to generate here a sun or a flower, You can also see the original here, discard, save a copy. That's very rudimentary what I did, but there are multiple options available. I can also draw around something I want to move or delete. And of course, there are also the editing options here, including this one, which lets you play with all sorts of things. You can also remove reflections and do all sorts of other things you knew from 2 years ago, I think. Okay, so with Drawing Assist, you can draw something on the screen and turn it into a work of art. So I can definitely do that here with this pen. So this is a flower, and with AI it can become beautiful with Drawing Assist. You can create a watercolor, pop art, illustration, 3D cartoon, or what have you. Writing Assist can correct your texts, can also do summaries, change the tone, elaborate on a theme. And for security, we have the brand new Knox Enhanced Encrypted Protection, which creates storage environments in every applications, and also secure Wi-Fi with quantum cryptography. So yeah, that's pretty nice. I'm pretty sure I forgot something because there's a lot of AI features here, but we'll probably find them in the text to review. Pre-installed applications include those: Copilot, OneDrive, LinkedIn, and Outlook. These are the Google ones, and these are the ones from Samsung, including SmartThings, Voice Recorder, Internet, Health, Wallet, and even Bixby. That's pretty much it in a nutshell for the Galaxy Z Flip7. A bigger screen with more things to do on it, including full screen applications. And of course, you can also swipe down for the quick settings, or also go here to this side for notifications. You can also turn off Do Not Disturb for a more complete version of it. And now the verdict. Okay, so on the Pro side, we have the best external screen on the market. I'm talking about brightness, I'm talking about functionality and immersiveness on account of the very narrow bezels. The battery is larger than the Flip 6 and you can actually feel it. Improved battery life. We have IP40 certification, which is a plus. We have good looking color, especially the blue and the red. We also have larger and brighter screen compared to the predecessor. And aside from that, night mode does a very good job in photos. The selfies and portrait captures are excellent during the day. We have natural colors throughout the photos, throughout most of the images we've taken here. Good stabilization when doing videos, fast connectivity, Gemini Live with the most ample presence on the external screen of a flip phone, extra customization for the external screen with that whole clock and widget thing. And Galaxy AI remains definitely the #1 in productivity, sketch to image, portrait studio, audio eraser, writing assist. And of course, 7 years of update is always a good thing. Plus the crease in the middle of the screen is now invisible, as you can see for yourself or not. Now on the cons, the charging is stuck in the past and it's quite slow. I would say it's a bit too angular for some people's tastes. You may feel like it's cutting in your palm when you hold it like this. That's I would say, potentially personal preference. It also has a processor performance which is lesser than some rivals like the Razer 60 Ultra. Some throttling, some distortion and vibration at maximum volume for the speakers. The volume is not very high for the speakers. The same cameras as the predecessor. This is the cons list, by the way. And some pretty, I would say, serious deformation of shots on ultra wide. I'm talking about the details on the sides of the shots. We don't have an advanced zoom, and also the width has increased by 4 mm, which can be quite a bit if you have a small hand and very skinny jeans. At the end of the day, it feels like a Z Flip 6 with a larger screen and a different type of CPU. I would say it's meant as a fashion phone, because if a person has this as a secondary phone and has to go to a gala or event, they will take this one because it frankly looks better and it's more stylish. It appeals to be tailored for creatives, people who create content on the go and who also like to edit it on the go using the AI smarts, because there's a lot of it. You can draw here, you can sketch to image, you can do portrait studios, and even your pet can become a piece of artwork. This is something to remember here. The style has been the focus of the phone this time, and also an improved and more often use of the external screen, because it's bigger and does more things even in third-party apps. So a stylish phone for all your needs. That's it from GSMDome.com. Goodbye.